Hi there. I am doing Top 5 Wednesday on Thursday. It's Thursday, September 17th, 2015. It was 8:18 a.m. when I started this, but now it's 8:19, which doesn't really matter, I suppose. Well, this one is on Top 5 Books on Mental Illness. But I'm going to be I'm going to take, hopefully, a different approach with this. Because I want to. I have struggled with mental health. I struggle with my mental health. I had years of quite a terrible depression with self-harm, various stuff. So, why are you opening Picasso? Hey, I learned a new trick. Oh, well, good for you, Siri. I just updated my Apple. Yeah, no, I don't want to import. No. Okay. So, the thing is that mental health is definitely... I deal with agoraphobic tendencies with my high anxiety. And I could go into all this stuff, but I don't want to because we're going to talk about books. So I'm going to recommend some various books that I think are interesting regarding mental health. And I actually have two lists, two top 5 sort of, that I grabbed from the books I have. I'm not saying these are the best books on mental health. I'm not even saying that they are exactly... I'm just going to tell you why I pick them. And you're going to recognize some of these anyways. Depression. Because actually, it's good to not only find something you can relate to, but that actually can make you smile in some way because you're like, that's my life. I totally, and this person gets it. This started out as a blog. I actually, on my journal, Goldmorn, GOLDMOURN.livejournal.com, I've got at the very bottom of my links list Adventures in Depression Part 1 and Part 2 that she had on her blog. I have them there. I suggest you check out those blog posts, and then, not mine, but hers. And then, if you haven't got this book, get it. Even if you don't have depression, this will give you an understanding of it. It can be different for everyone, but there's some common things. You'll understand a bit more about how it can be. So this is definitely a recommendation for those who deal with depression or want to understand it a little better from somebody's perspective but you don't want to read you don't want to wiki it or Google it or actually do actual research. But read this. Enjoy this. Okay, so that's recommendation. They're not in order of how I would recommend it. I've already talked about this one so much. So, and it's a recent acquisition, so maybe I'll feel differently about it. But radical acceptance, as I've said before, is part of mindfulness. You might have heard of it regarding Zen Buddhism, but it's a key element of what is known in dialectical behavior therapy, which is partly cognitive behavior therapy. This is a thing I need to learn still. I've learned it, but I have a hard time putting it into practice because it's so hard to accept yourself, especially if you're dealing with so much stuff. But this is a recommendation. Anxiety sufferers, self-esteem people who have dealt with, people who have that negative loop in their head. It's a good book. Again, hopefully going off the beaten path, but recommending Succulent Wild Woman by SARK. Dancing with Your Wonderful Self. It's very vibrant, very colorful. I haven't read this in a few years. Fears, healing, succulent shy woman, sexuality, living the process. It covers. It's about being a person, a woman, living with money, living without money. And you may be like, what does that have to do with mental health? Because a key component with mental health is loving yourself. I know, I don't have it down. Oh, they mentioned therapy in here too. Which mentions, investigating the darkness, working with the hard parts, go out wildly and alone, living a wonderful wild life right now. Books like these aren't like just, they're not fluff. I was going to say not just fluff. It's not fluff. Part of your mental health, what you need is to read from inspiring people who you have a feeling have been there learning stuff. It's more about, this is on the self-care side. You'll hear the word self-care said probably, it's a newer word, I think. It's not new, but it's said a lot. I've learned in therapy, but a lot of people say it online and that now. When it's something I wasn't taught as a kid, obviously. See, that was a snub at myself. See how it's tough. Anyway, self-care and learning to love yourself and appreciate yourself and to celebrate yourself wherever you're at is something we could all use in our journey for good mental health. So I recommend SARK's books. This is the other one I picked immediately for the top 5. It's called Telegram. And it's by Maranda Elizabeth. They are a magnificent writer. This book, you're like, I haven't heard of it. Or you're like, that's a zine-ster. Yes, they are. They have made the zine Telegram for many years. And they've continued to write the zine. But this is an amazing book. And you can find it. I bought this through Doris Seastro. But you can buy it directly, or at one point you could, from Miranda's own website. Etsy.com especially had the book. If you can find it anywhere, just look for it. Look for this. Because, okay, borderline personality, hospitalizations, personality issues, mental health just in general, self-care, taking care of yourself, fears relating to it, therapy, sexuality, everything. I'm not even covering it. Surviving, and then going beyond surviving with daily life, but making it through the winter, making the decisions, and it's easy. It's beautiful to read. You might be like, oh, I can't read that. That looks so weird if you've never read zines. But no, it's perfectly readable. In fact, when I was through it, I was like, more, please. So, it's depression, anxiety, borderline personality disorder, how to stay sober. What have you been learning? What are your survival strategies? Have you had any good adventures lately? So, I recommend this book 100%. I, in fact, wanted to buy a copy and give it to friends. I wanted to. I really, really wanted to, but I didn't. I haven't. But I would. I would if I could. And this is so long ago, like, when they started. Sorry. I'm trying to remember and respect identity. We're all learning. But they are a fantastic writer. Please check out this book. Honestly, 100%. If you struggle with anything, or if you just want an amazingly well-written, read, you're from a small town, you want to get out of some place, you're just living life, everything, so amazing. I know I went on about it for a long time. And this was the other book. I'm like, that's not about mental health at all. It's another one of those books I'm recommending. Oh, look at that. Women Who Run with the Wolves. Now, this isn't my original copy. I gave it to my close cousin, and I think she lost it. So this was my Bible. This is a book I should read again. This is a book that improved my mental health when I read it. It's not a mental health book. Although, doctor. Within every woman there's a wild and natural creature, a powerful force filled with good instincts, passionate creativity, and ageless knowing. I don't recommend this just for women, actually. Men would learn a lot. Anybody could learn a lot from this. This book changed my life when I read it in my early 20s. And then life happened and I just... We are all filled with a longing for the wild. There are few culturally sanctioned antidotes for this yearning. We were taught to feel shame for such a desire. We grew our hair long. I'm not cutting it. And used it to hide our feelings, but I do that. But the shadow of wild woman still lurks behind us during our days and in our nights. No matter where we are, the shadow that trots behind us is definitely four-footed. But this book has, the stories, but it goes behind it. And, the Bluebeard one stays with me forever. You'll find it just goes through so much. And, and the woman dancing. Oh my goodness. And body love. Everything is in here. This I swear it will lift you up. It will connect you to the bones of you. It's mental health, life, recommended. So these were honorable mentions, and I'll tell you why. First of all, this writer, introduced to this writer through a friend of mine who really stood by this person, and I understand why. This writer, you might be like, oh, that's cheesy again, what are you doing? But understanding the blocks that bind you, reprogramming old tapes, for those who don't, becoming conscious. This is, again, one of those very helpful, expressing your creativity, change and transition, a world where it's safe to love each other. Just, this writer recommended. Another writer I have to recommend. I'm going to share a few of the books because I know I'm running long. This one was sent to me by a dear friend back in the day. And happiness within our terrible struggles. It's American Buddhist nun wrote these, and so that's the route this is coming from. But again, mental health wise, and I read these this year. We can let the circumstances of our lives harden us and make us increasingly resentful and afraid, or we can let them soften us and make us kinder. With tools to, our habitual habits to root us in fear and to break free of destructive patterns. Now, I've read these and I haven't necessarily broken free. It takes work. Things don't happen overnight. Just like you can't just shed your fat overnight. Just referencing something. But yeah, those books, this writer recommended for mental health, for life, Now, I'm sure this book is on people's lists on books on mental health as far as portraying mental health or on the subject. If you want, I could have gone the way of picking wasted, etc., to deal with eating disorders and mental health, etc. So I will give an honorable mention to Girl Interrupted for borderline and mental health and hospitalizations, and we all know the movie. We all know and love the movie. And the book is even better. For those of us who have been there and done that, this is good. But it's also good because for those of us who like to write, because this person wrote their experience, those of us who like to write, makes you think about how you could write your experiences and share, and that you're not alone. But also it's interesting for various reasons. So, of course I mentioned that one. And you're going to go, what are you picking this one for? Okay. In my early 20s, especially during some of the darkest times, I just stumbled into the world of Ted Hughes / Sylvia Plath / Anne Sexton confessional poetry. I read the journals of Sylvia Plath, which I could recommend as honorable mention. But I'm going to recommend this book, mental health-wise. Why? Because confessional poetry is one of those things that can change your life if you're a reader. And also, this writer held no punches with her poetry on the subject of mental health, on the subject of just being a person, being a woman. She just... I want to read this all of a sudden right now again. Read this book. Mental health-wise, okay. None has quite the courage to make a clean breast of it. Nobody has quite displayed her brilliance, her verve, her headlong metaphoric leaps. Women poets in particular owe a debt to Anne Sexton, who broke new ground, shattered taboos, and endured a barrage of attacks along the way because of the flamboyance of her subject matter. She has earned her place in the canon. Poems are from a great depth in herself. Yeah, I'm reading the blurbs because they're good. She committed suicide in 1974. Before I was born. 4 years before I was born. But read this because it's beautiful writing. It will hit you in the gut. You will relate to stuff as well. And, and go down the path of wherever you are. I'm not mentioning Alice in Wonderland. I think I've got an Alice in Wonderland shelf. Those of us have really, many of us have connected to that whole thing. So, I don't even need to say that, down the rabbit hole and go ask Alice, all that stuff. Those are the books I'm recommending for Top 5 Wednesday. From a mental health perspective, from somebody who's been there, done that, still maybe going through some of that. Books that might uplift you or give you a deeper understanding, or that you will relate to when you read them, or find yourself in them, whether you have illness or not, you will see that. And I also believe that although I struggle with shame and my own terrible self-esteem, etc., and not properly self-care all the time, although I showered really. Hair smells good. I still know, what, like many people who have been in therapy and or are self-aware or spend a lot of time on their own, you know what is good for you. You know it's just hard to do those things, which is part of some of the illnesses that battle. But I hope you're having a great reading time. Me, I'm I've finished that book I was ashamed to share in my Friday reads, my last video. But I've been reading a couple of poetry magazine. It's called Poetry, and it's Canlit. I believe it's Canadian. Canlit literary mag, and I'm really enjoying it. I'm catching up on my backlog of literary magazine subscriptions. Not catching up. I've got too many to catch up on, but I'm reading that. Started reading the most recent Griffin Poetry Prize anthology of the shortlist, and Murakami's still waiting for me to go back to him. Not the writer. He would not. No. But you can see the book. It's not haunting me. I really like the book. I couldn't help myself. I had to read Lynn Crosby. You should read Lynn Crosby. Life is about losing everything. Read that. Or read Liar, Confessional Poem. Or read the new book, Where Did You Sleep Last Night? Or read anything. Read anything you want. Don't let me tell you what to do. So, there you go. I'm done. Oh my gosh, 20-something minutes. I'm going to have to chop this up. Vincent is crying.